Good morning and welcome to the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors meeting for May 22nd, 2018. Madam Clerk.
Item 1 on the closed session agenda, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D1, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, County of Calaveras versus Pacific Gas and Electric Company et al., San Francisco County Superior Court case number CGC 18564465.
Is there any public comment on this?
There sure is public comment on this. This weekend I was up in Sonoma and Marin County area, and I went up there to get some compost, and I was just listening to the radio, and it was just flooded with advertisements against the proposed legislation to shield PG&E, and I was thinking about this, and my significant other was in the truck with me. Very romantic going and get compost with your significant other. But I said, there's no way they'd pull that off through the legislator. There's something else. And I said, PUC. They're going to use the Public Utilities Commission. The PUC is basically controlled by PG&E. It's a revolving door of attorneys that work for either PG&E or the PUC, and they're going to use some sort of rate or tariff adjustment to shield themselves. I just know it. So that's what you're going to be looking at. Then after that, we went and did some errands and went over to the airport and did a little bit of work, and then by the time lunch came around, I went up to Jack London State Park. I always go to Jack London State Park. I get what's called the Plymouth Rock, which is a turkey sandwich with cranberry sauce at the Safeway there in Sonoma. I always do this, and then I go up to the Jack London State Park and eat it. And I went out to the point beyond the silos, and I was looking at the landscape, and that's the burn area. And you see where the fires came through, and you see that you had multiple fires. And there's no way that you had so many multiple fires if there wasn't neglect involved. And there is no way that that conditions have been so different. They are different because of global warming, but so different than the 1960s or 1970s that would have allowed a different situation unless there was neglect, unless they weren't clearing around power lines, unless they weren't maintaining their easements. So remember that. I don't know what you have they're going to talk about in closed session. You might tell Singleton that I just don't have time to call him back. He calls me. He's actually my attorney for something else. And I don't have time to answer emails or call him back because I have important things to do, like work on airplanes and boats. Damn it.
Any other public comments on this item? If not, Madam Clerk.
Item 2, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, one case pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9 D2.
Any public comments on this item?
Yeah, I do have public comments. As we know, you guys don't see anything until the last minute, so it's pretty much open here. Last week you heard the Snowden situation, and as you know, I warned you, so there's no I told you so here that he should have been allowed to have his attorney present. The problem here is after you guys denied him, they abated that property. You guys are going to have to come to some, even though you eventually denied it, it's going to look as if you denied it the second time to protect yourselves. So you have to come to some. You guys are going to have to come to some financial agreement on that. Talk to your insurance company because it's going to be over I'd assume it'll be over the $125,000 deductible. But make it good because it looks bad in the community. We all make mistakes. Don't worry about that. But when we make a mistake, we have to make it right by the people involved. And we don't want angry marijuana growers now, do we? At least I don't. Okay.
Any other public comments on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Item 3, Public Employee Performance Evaluation, Government Code Section 54957B1, Title Planning Director.
Public comments?
As you know, Peter's become my friend. And the reason he became my friend is I do regular checks on Peter, whether it's a general plan or it used to be marijuana. And, so I talked to Peter, I think it was yesterday, and I said, listen, when you have the bull by the rest is sure to follow. So there's not too much you can do. You can't get rid of him at this point because we need that general plan. And, most likely that guy's is going to retire after he gets it for us. It's been a slow plotting process, but understand that a lot of the problems you have are related to having marijuana and not having enough time and staff to deal with other issues, other planning items. I understand that you're down in you're in Clyde's area. They will the health clinic that's being heard on Thursday, and great to hear that. Anyway, the guy does a good job. He's a nice guy. I know. Friends and friends and friends. A lot of friends. So, let's go for it.
Any other public comments? Seeing none, Madam Clerk.
Item 4, Public Employee Performance Evaluation, Government Code Section 54957B1, Title Building Official, has been pulled and will be heard at a later date.
No public comment on it?
It's been pulled.
No public comment on it.
It's been pulled for a later date.
Okay, so
All right,
enjoy your closed session.
we will now go to closed session.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
Wait, sorry. We're not on.
Mr. Chairman, do we know why item 4 was pulled?
CAO, let's.
Yeah, I had requested that it be pulled just based on the schedule and time today. I expected in talking with council that items 1 and 2 were going to take the full hour this morning, which left lunchtime for item 3. And not knowing what time the board was going to end today, it would have been hearing item 4 at the conclusion of the regular board meeting, which could have been into the evening.
Welcome to the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors meeting for May 22nd, 2018. Shall we all rise and pledge the flag? Madam Clerk, will you please lead us? Madam Clerk.
Report of closed session. Item 1, pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D1, conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, County of Calaveras v. Pacific Gas and Electric Company et al., San Francisco County Superior Court Case Number CGC 18564465. There was no reportable action taken. Item 2, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation, one case pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9D2. There was no reportable action taken. Item 3, public employee performance evaluation, Government Code Section 54957B1, Title Planning Director. This item will be heard during the lunch break today. Item 4, public employee performance evaluation, Government Code Section 54957B1, title Building Official, this item was pulled to be heard at a later date.
Thank you. Moving on to announcements. Madam Clerk?
Announcements. This is a time for board members and county staff to provide updates of upcoming county events that may be of interest to the public.
Is there any board announcements? Supervisor Mills, your light is on.
Mr. Chair, I do. Had an opportunity to watch the frog jump this last weekend and noticed that you lost to the mayor. And in a way to support the county in the future, the staff and I have gotten together to get you a better frog.
Well, actually, there was some controversy, but I conceded and agreed to, thank you. I agreed to buy lunch and concede that she won, and I will be buying lunch for city manager, the mayor, myself, and the CAO at a time and place to be determined. So, thank you.
So we don't have frog gate. You just threw it in?
Yeah.
No frog gate here?
Any other board announcements? Any staff announcements? Seeing none, moving forward. Madam Clerk, item number 5.
Item 5 is from the Behavioral Health Services Mental Health Program to adopt a proclamation recognizing May as Mental Health Awareness Month in Calaveras County.
Mr. Chair, I have the
You
proclamation.
have it?
I
Okay,
have the
just wanna make
proclamation.
sure people hear it and see it.
Okay.
Supervisor Mills.
Good morning. This is a proclamation declaring May as Mental Health Awareness Month. Whereas Mental Health Awareness Month is part of a nationwide effort in the month of May to reduce the stigma and discrimination surrounding mental health challenges, and increased awareness of tools and resources to prevent mental health challenges and reduce the symptoms. And whereas mental health is essential to everyone's overall health and well-being, and whereas prevention is an effective way to reduce the burden of mental health conditions, and there is a strong research that diet, exercise, sleep, and stress management can help all Americans protect their health and well-being, and whereas with effective treatment, individuals with mental health conditions can recover and lead full, productive lives, and whereas by passing the Mental Health Services Act of 2004 as Proposition 63, voters dedicated resources to keep individuals healthy so they don't reach the crisis point in our jails, hospitals, or homelessness. And whereas California's mental health system now empowers people living with mental health challenges and their families to break down stigma and reduce discrimination associated with mental illness, and whereas every Californian can support Mental Health Awareness Month by wearing lime green, the color of California's mental health movement.
So you want to come speak?
So, good morning, Chairman and members of the board. My name is Susan Sells, and I'm the Mental Health Services Act Analyst for Calaveras Behavioral Health Services Division for Health and Human Services. Today I'm here to ask you to grant our request to proclaim the month of May 2018 as Mental Health Awareness Month. Organizations, agencies, and individuals across the nation dedicate the month of May to increasing awareness of mental health issues and educating the community in hopes to reduce the stigma associated with mental illness. We want to start a conversation about mental health, about how anyone can be affected and that mental illness does not discriminate. Mental health challenges cross economic, social, racial, and ethnic boundaries, and you can't tell by looking at someone if they're struggling with a mental health issue. We want to encourage people to talk about mental health. It's not contagious. We want people to be able to have a conversation about bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, or depression without fear of judgment or shame. I'd like to introduce KB Alvarado, and she is the MHSA, or Mental Health Services Act, Community Health Liaison, to review the May Awareness Month activities that Behavioral Health Services Division has sponsored this month.
Can I reach? Thank you and good morning, Board of Supervisors. Thank you, Susan, for the presentation. My name is KB Alvarado, and I am the Community Health Liaison with Behavioral Health, and I would like to discuss some of the activities that the Calaveras County Behavioral Health has sponsored this month. On May 5th, 2018, there was a Kick Out Stigma barbecue event happened at the Wellness Cabin, formerly known as the Living Room. Center provides opportunities for socialization, education, information on resources, outreach, and help to people with mental illness, and peer support for recovery in safe and a caring place. We want to acknowledge everyone that came to this event and show their support. In addition, we want to recognize all the staff that had part to do in the planning and coordination of the event. And the Wellness Support Center, the staff from the ASOC team has provided this planning and coordination, so we want to recognize their hard work and dedication for the barbecue stigma kick-out event. On May 11th, Behavioral Health staff provided informational resources at the food bank in addition to produce days. So we decided to have information booth there and provide educational material about mental health, suicide prevention, and also the Wellness Cabin activity calendar. We reached about 75 to 80 people, and I was there myself presenting the information on mental health and awareness. And the community really they welcome Wellness Day. So I am so proud that we were able to reach 75 to 80 people that day. Mental health first aid training is coming up on May 24th. And it's an 8-hour course to demonstrate how to assess a mental health crisis, provide help, and connect persons to the appropriate care. Like CPR training, mental health first aid prepares participants to interact with a person in crisis and then connects person with help. This training, we still have 5 spots left, and it's on Thursday, May 24th. And thank you to our partner, Mark Twain Hospital. We were able to get the training room there. Wellness Recovery Action Plan, it's a RAP workshop, other known as RAP. It's I facilitated that at the Wellness Center on May 2nd, and I have 6 attendees, and they're all mental health consumers from Calaveras County Behavioral Health. It's going to be ongoing for 8 weeks, and it was created as a personal tool to assist individuals with managing their mental wellness, their emotions, and their lives. This workshop provides participants with wellness tools and teaches them how to develop and implement a plan for dealing with difficult times before they escalate. In closing, we respectfully ask that the board adopt a resolution proclaiming the month of May 2018 as Mental Health Month, and wear the green ribbon provided today to show your support. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Is there any public comments?
I have something to say about everything. What a wonderful child. I just met her, Hazley, over here. I'm the first person she's ever run to and embraced. So that was very special. As usual, I'm unprepared, but I have information. Mental Health Awareness Month was started by Mental Health America. And Mental Health America was founded by a fellow by the name of Clifford Beers. Clifford was at Yale, and he's had some mental issues that started there. And then he went to work for a newspaper. His brother died, and that dramatically affected him and sent him into depression and other related mental illnesses, and he had to be institutionalized. While in there, he found the condition so dismal that he set on a course of healing himself. And much of the work that we do today is founded on the work that he did at the turn of the last century. Clifford Beers wrote a book, and it's called Finding Yourself, I believe it was, and it's used as a text still to this day. Clifford Beers was a cousin of my grandmother, Emily Beers, and my father can remember Clifford when my father was a child, at the family dinners, the family reunions, and holidays. And so there's that direct connection between me, America mental health, and the mental health industry that seems to never tire of bringing me into mental health issues. I have a text this morning from somebody who's suffering from a form of addiction, and they needed a little pick-me-up, so I texted them back. As you know, I've dated many years ago somebody with a mental health condition. It seems like a ongoing and everyday event that I have something to do with mental health issues. And so this date, this event is dear to my heart, and I hope you find it in yourself to vote unanimously to accept this as Mental Health Awareness Month in Calaveras County. With that, I'll let you get going because somebody's calling me, I see.
Thank you. Bill Wilson, District 1, mental health. Mental health is a big problem, not in our county, just our county, but throughout the country. Mental health is in our family. My wife's sister has problems with depression. Her mother suffered from depression. Most people at some time or another are debilitated by depression. A lot of people in this county are suffering from depression because of actions of this board. One way or the other, you were kind of in a rock between a rock and a hard spot, I understand. Anyway, I think it's admirable that we have a proclamation. My only disappointment is that it's only been made 22 days into the month, and it should have been early in the month. Thank you.
More public comments?
Is that about this subject?
About this subject only, yes. All right, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board.
Mr. Chair, I have the privilege of serving on the Mental Health Advisory Board for the county for the last year and a half, as I have a 2-year term on it. And I want to really commend the staff who is working very hard on this. Kristen and her team, and Susan and Dave, they've all really working very hard for our community. And the Wellness Cabin event earlier this month was really great. So I think that we're making progress in this county. I know Susan's had great success in writing grants, so we have people working in the jails. We have crisis workers to go out and meet people on homeless issues. We're making progress, and it's a very difficult issue, and I think we're all touched by it by different ways, and I really commend the board should we pass this motion. I think it's important. Thank you.
Supervisor Mills?
No, I was just waiting for
You're waiting for a motion?
waiting for a motion,
So
sir.
I was hoping you would make the motion.
I will make the motion.
All right. Do I have a second? I have a motion.
I'll second it.
I have a second by Supervisor Clapp, a motion by Supervisor Mills. Any other discussion? If not, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously.
Now therefore be it proclaimed that the County of Calaveras proclaims May 2018 as Mental Health Awareness Month and calls upon the citizens of Calaveras County to help to end mental health stigma and be informed of resources to improve their mental wellness. And Susan, did you want to come up and maybe?
Chris, want to bring Kristen up too?
Scoot in. Perfect. Scoot in, Susan, a little more, please. Susan, can you scoot in? Scoot in. There we go. One more. Thank you.
All right, moving on, public comments. Madam
Public
Clerk.
comment. Any item of interest to the public that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board and is not posted on the consent or regular agendas may be addressed during the public comment period. California law prohibits the board from taking action on any matter which is not posted on the agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the Board of Supervisors. If public comment is completed before the 30-minute allotted time period, the board may immediately move to the next order of business. If public comment is not completed during the allotted time period, it will be continued as the last item of business in order to provide an opportunity for the remainder of comments to be heard. Just a reminder that there is only 5 people in the aisle, and please don't block the door. So you can step outside and still hear with the TV. And if you could have a single file line with 5 people. Thank you.
Mr. Stoughton.
Good morning. First, I'd like to thank the gracious people of Calaveras County for always letting me go first in public comment. I think that's very kind of them. I'll only take 2 minutes and 49 seconds of your time now. What I'd like to talk about is, let me choose something, ambulance service in Calaveras County. If the people ever found out how dismal the response time is in general to emergency calls in Calaveras County, they would probably recall all of you. We haven't reviewed that contract. The contract, when it was written, and it's a very general contract, didn't provide safeguards for the local community, the small local communities like West Point. West Point traditionally had a standby ambulance, and now it doesn't. 24-hour standby ambulance, which was cut to 12 hours and then removed entirely. The response time is, by law, 45 minutes, and they make the 45 minutes, but if you respond in 45 minutes and get somebody to the hospital, it's going to take another 45 minutes to get them to the hospital, taking them well outside that critical 1-hour period that you need to treat people for stroke and heart attack and other conditions. So it would be I would advise you to bring forth that contract, review that contract publicly, let the public give comment to it. It's very important. Recently there have been some changes in my family, and we are going to. I'm going to rent out the house and down the Bay Area, and we're going to move to another location. But we're deciding where we're going to land, and we're looking at the North Bay. We're not looking at Calaveras County, and it's specifically because of emergency services, not the fire, because that's well covered, but the ambulance service. Everybody wants a safe place for their family to reside. And if you want people to stay here, if you want people to come back here, if you want people to come here, you will look at ambulance services. 40 seconds to go. 39. Anybody want to talk about anything else? I can talk about anything, as you guys know. I was very pleased. This morning I was over in the elections office, and I was looking at the financials, and it was actually very interesting to see where the money is coming from. And there's nothing there that would concern me. Just interesting to see. I wish you all the best of luck in your elections and your whatever you have going on. You never know these days. But I like all of you, and I'd like all of you to stay. Okay? Excellent. Thank you. Take care. Have a great day.
Good morning, Supervisors. Thank you for your time. My name is James Marvin. I'm the co-owner of Big John's Gas Station in Mountain Ranch, California. I'm really coming here out of desperation. I've currently taken out a $25,000 loan on the business. We're now in a net loss of about $2,300 or $3,000 every week. After the fire, we felt this type of dip, but then we recovered due to the growers. and I'm projecting that this loss of revenue is because of the growers being gone now. We'll have a better understanding next week for our sales, but if we don't make the sales after Sunday, we're going to be closing our doors. That means 7 families that are going to be out of work. What I fear is that there's irrational or emotional decisions that are being made that kind of resemble the wedding cake model theory. If you're taking psychology or sociology, you're aware that sensational cases usually make a decision for the population as a whole. We all know about the case about the people being held for basically slavery for the growers that had happened. But as a population, we could feel, Sender's Market and Big John's is a barometer for the county. If we're going to fail, I know other businesses are feeling it also. You got to think that's loss of tax revenue, property tax. Me, myself personally, I haven't paid my a little less than $9,000 in sales and use tax for first quarter of this year. So I got to figure that out too. With the ban of the marijuana growing, you got to think that's lack of resources. And me, myself, back in 2000 to 2003, I used to work side by side with Operation Wolf. And if you don't know, that's a counter-drug operation that was specifically for Northern California. The handful of sheriff's officers or officers that we have right now, I know aren't able to support actually enforcing a ban. And me, myself, actually have a minor in criminology from Davis, and a law is useless unless it's enforceable. I see the realities of the environmental impacts too, and that's my concern. So what I'm proposing that I think will solve everybody's concern, that's talking about with finances, with revenue, small businesses, family, environmental concerns, and especially the support of our sheriff's office, is to really allow the growing to happen, enforce it properly, and to eliminate something happening like that wedding cake, that sensational thing that had happened with the persons being held involuntary. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Brenda McHenry, and I've recently moved here to Calaveras County, and I am working as a volunteer with the League of Women Voters. On their website, votersedge.org, for the June 5th election, and I'm here today just to make sure that you all know about it. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization of women and men which encourages informed and active participation in government. It works to increase understanding of major public policy issues and influences public policy through education and advocacy. To that end, the League provides services to voters, including voter registration, candidate forums, and pros and cons publications. These, by the way, you will find in the local library. In addition, Voters Edge is an online free service allowing candidates to post their information and priorities. A voter can log in to votersedge.org, plug in their residence address, and see what's on the ballot. They can see information provided by the candidates, information about propositions and local measures, and even where and how to cast your ballot. Until now, our county voters could only see candidates for the state elections and federal. This year, because of an invitation from the Registrar of Voters and my availability, we are able to include Calaveras candidates and measures. I have emailed and mailed invitations to all of the local candidates. They're asked to post 3 priorities if elected, and may also add other information like endorsements and videos. The 2 measures on the June ballot for the county and for Angels Camp are also there. and I've added some articles I found that have further discussion. Some of the candidates have entered their goals, and I've followed up with the others with additional emails and phone calls as I'm able to have contact information. There's still time to participate. You got another 2 weeks. And I would encourage any candidates who have not completed the 2 required items, profession and priorities, to do so very soon, as we're getting real close to June 5th. And many voters have already mailed in their ballots. Thank you for this opportunity, and we'll be back in November, I expect, as well, with a little more advance notice. Thank you.
Good morning, Board. Sandy Maitrot. I stand before you today on behalf of myself and others who own property in District 2. I will ask those who are there or who are here with me today to now stand. I was elected spokesperson to ensure the board is made aware of our deep appreciation for code compliance and their efforts as they proceed with the imposition of fines and summary abatements where code violators have refused to come into compliance. The code compliance team is addressing code violations that have existed in our communities for a considerable amount of time, and their work does go beyond cannabis. It's not a fast process. Code compliance takes into consideration the length of time the violations existed, the culpability of the person or persons causing the violation, the willfulness of the violation, the extent of it, and most importantly, the effect the violation has on neighboring properties. When abatement action is taken, there's the potential to lien the property for administrative and abatement costs and the collection of fines. The action taken by members of this team allow the violations to be abated and neighborhood normalcy to return. Myself and my neighbors wanted to ensure that you as the Board of Supervisors know our support for these people and the jobs they do, along with expressing our appreciation to you for supporting them and moving swiftly on the abatement cases that we all assume you will hear in the hours, days, and weeks ahead. Thank you in advance for ensuring this team continues to be valued, and that the costs associated with securing our quality of life are recovered by the cost causer, not by the taxpayers of Calaveras County. Thank you.
Good morning, David Sweet from District 3. I'm informed that there's no provision for members of the board to censure one of their own members for lying in this chamber. And because that lie contributed to a horrendous decision that is affecting hundreds of family farmers in this area, I'm going to ask you to informally make your feelings clear to this community that you oppose or censure Mr. Mills for lying in this chamber. This document that he concocted, called Cultivating Disaster, is basically a 61-page lie. The big lie is there's no difference between illegal and legal growers. Mr. Mills had to convince the general public that regulated growers pollute just as badly as illegal growers. Unfortunately, Mr. Mills never expected that a real scientist, this was not written by any scientist, by the way, would take a look at his report. I'd like to read from Patrick J. Sullivan, PhD, a 40-year environmental scientist consultant. This is what he had to say about the report. I'll just read some excerpts. In attempting to support the stated purposes and conclusion of Cultivating Disaster, Mr. Mills has demonstrated his report contains no scientific basis or evidence. Cultivating Disaster is nothing more than junk science that is intentionally misleading and is contradicted by the Environmental Impact Report. Mr. Mills' report presents a deceptive environmental picture of cannabis cultivation in Calaveras County, since he makes no distinction between illegal and legal cannabis. much further in this report, which I'll make all available and is on the internet as we speak. Mr. Mills claims in one section of his report that should the county initiate similar safety protocols, the costs could quickly jump to $2 billion in this county alone. Mr. Sullivan says this makes no sense. In closing, I wish I could read a lot more of this. His closing comment is, finally, Mr. Mills apparently believes there's no distinction between legal cannabis cultivation. In the attempt to write a scientific environmental report, it's either very bad example of creative writing, or just plain science fiction. You should be ashamed of yourself, sir.
Proponent Randall Smith, District 3. Apropos the big lie of Mr. Mills, I stand before you as a compliant cannabis business owner. We are licensed by the state of California, and I have the following statement I'd like to share with the public. This is a press release for immediate release dated today, May 22nd, 2018. Calaveras County, bait and switch. Magic Show LLC, a California state licensed cannabis cultivation business, California license number TML 17-17, is holding a press conference at its warehouse to announce its self-abatement of cannabis plants that will be too young to harvest or take to market at the time the ban goes into effect. The estimated retail value of these plants, if they were to be grown into maturity and processed, is about $678,000. This action is being involuntarily taken because state licensed and tax-paying businesses are being shut down by a ban on commercial cannabis cultivation enacted by the Calaveras County Board of Supervisors on January 10th, 2018. The ban goes into effect on June 7th, 2018. We will offer an important newsworthy statement for the press, followed by a tour of our facility while the plants are being cut down. Film crews will have the opportunity to take footage of the destruction of our grow and to interview the owners of our business and its employees, all of whom are losing their jobs as a result of your ban. When? Wednesday, June 6th, 2018, 12 noon. Where? 5113 Commercial Way, Hathaway Pines, California, 95233. The owners of other Calaveras County businesses impacted by the ban will be present to share their stories as well. Moreover, opportunities may be made available for news teams and film crews to visit other previously permitted and taxed Calaveras County medical cannabis grow sites, where self-abatements will also be implemented on this most solemn of days. I want to follow up this statement with just one thing. I want to commend Jack Garamendi for his interview last week on the community TV. And he pointed out there's a lot of good people here and there's a lot good happening in this county, and it's true. There's a lot of really good people here, and I'm feeling sorry for them because they're losing out too because of this. It's shameful. You guys are making this county look like a joke, a laughingstock, but that doesn't mean the people here are bad people. We have good people here. There's a lot going on, and you guys have done your level best to ruin this place.
Good morning. My name is Alison Chard Smith. Thank you. I'm the board president for the Mountain Ranch Resource Center and Community Club, and I bring with me today two of my board members, just as we're a board of 7. I have on my left Lynn Darmstead. She runs our pantry program up in Mountain Ranch, and this is Madeline Schiffel. She is one of our directors at large. I provided a packet for you today. I just wanted to provide a little bit of what's going on in Mountain Ranch and the reason why I'm here today. We currently serve the Mountain Ranch area with community-based programs and services in our community. We are a county-owned building, so we are one of your assets. It's approximately a 50-year-old building that was formerly used as a school. We are a volunteer board, as I said, of approximately 7 board members, and we are a 501c3 that relies 100% on donations for running of our operating expenses. The reason for us coming today is we're requesting to the county to assist with us with the replacement of windows, bathroom upgrades, insulation, and minimum roof repairs. We met with Patrick Martin, a facilities manager, yesterday, who gave an assessment of our property, gave some really great ideas, and I know that he was wishing to come today to if you had any questions for him. We had originally got a quote from a contractor last year, which is the 3rd page of that packet, which speaks about the quote that originally he had determined was replacement of that roof, and that was a $33,500. Based on Patrick Martin's assessment, there may be less minimal requirements needed. I wanted to talk a little bit, so that was the reason I came today. And I don't know if you all are aware what the Mountain Ranch Resource Center and Youth Alliance does, but we do, as I said, we support the Mountain Ranch area. And some of the things that the packet has more information, but some of the things we're the most proud of is we do a food distribution program, which is the USDA commodities program, as well as through the Resource Connection. We serve about 73 households and 136 individuals per month. We have a homebound delivery program for people that deliver these pantry foods to people that cannot leave their homes. We have a Lunch With Us program, which survives about 70 people per month, which provides a nutritional, low-cost meal for all community members, as well as cooking demonstration programs for these same people that are through the pantry programs to help them learn how to cook with limited resources, of course, because some of these people are still living in campers or limited access to be able to cook nutritional foods, and this is through the UC Davis and the Master Gardeners program and the Gardens to Grow program. And then we also, some of the things we're most proud of is that when I said services, is that a lot of the people in the Mountain Ranch area find it very hard through age and so forth is to go through that. Thank you so much.
Good morning, gentlemen. Bill Wilson, District 1. Report from the fair. Fair was flat this year. No ups, no downs. Most of you came by the area we had our booths. A couple of you didn't. Understandable. We did get about 150, 175 signatures, most out of the parking lot. People weren't really comfortable with signing in the fair because of retaliation from individuals on this board. Amazing. Anyway, one other question I'd like to know is that since there is no regulated growing anymore, just illegal growing, and we all knew there were 1,000 illegal grows out there, and the county code compliance folks said they're going to try to get 300 of those. Gentlemen, which one of the 3 of you do I come to get into that 700 club that you're not going to bother with? I mean, I understand that if we pay enough to one of you individuals, it's very possible we won't be bothered. We won't be one of those 700. I know there's 2 of you that we don't have to worry about, but there's 3 of you up there. All of you voted to end regulated growing. You were between a rock and a hard spot. I understand that. I even talked to one of your sons this weekend. And he told me that he didn't agree, but there wasn't anything he could do. The 2 of you aren't on very good terms. Anyway, it's just a shame that this county is now looking for revenue. Revenue. You need to find money somewhere from not just the individuals who are willing to pay taxes. You need to find money from everybody in this county for storage containers or whatever else they may have on their property. Amazing, amazing, gentlemen. You know, you could have had about $18 million this year in taxes, legal taxes. Instead, we had 8 days of legalization in this county. And you three are responsible for the mess that we're going to have this year. I hope nobody dies this year. I swear to God, if they do, it's your fault.
Bonnie Newman from Double Springs. The last time I spoke, I got cut off because I spoke too long, so I want to pick up where I left off, comparing the two sides of my poster. One side has Vladimir Putin on it as a communist, Benito Mussolini as a fascist, Adolf Hitler as a racist, and Donald Trump with a question mark, because it's questionable. To contrast, the other side of my poster board has free speech, free press, free choice, and freedom. To take away any of those freedoms would be a loss of freedom. And I think the other side of my poster epitomizes the kind of people that would take away those freedoms from me, and you, and all of us. That's really not why I came here today. I came here today to talk about something very near and dear to my heart, which is IHSS. Our contract expired 7 years ago. Our union is supposed to be representing home care providers. Do you see them? You see them once in a while, maybe a flash of purple somewhere. Maybe that's just your imagination, because they have not stepped up. 7 years our contract has been expired. We've been paying dues for 7 years. Now they want $45 a month. The president of our union makes $20,000 a month off of a bunch of minimum wage workers who no longer have to pay dues, but since they've never really been informed of their right to not pay dues, many of them continue to pay dues to a union that does not provide proper representation. So I don't count on them to give me a fair contract. I'm counting on you folks to give us a fair contract. If and when they ever step up to the table, begin contract negotiations, I'm going to depend on you folks to give us what we deserve. A standard of living that is above minimum wage, which is one step above poverty. Most home care workers work 120 hours a month, average. Can you pay your mortgage or your rent, your gas, your electricity, your gas, your food on $1,200 a month? I'm finding it real hard. Thank you.
Good morning, Board. I'm Greg Stark from the Calaveras Deputy Sheriff's Association, and I'm here to talk about a letter that was distributed to the citizens of Calaveras County that had some slanderous wording in it. Our membership took exception to that, and they asked me to come here to speak to you and let the public know. Some of the information in there is misleading and false, and I'm going to read some of the experts. Morale among the deputy sheriffs and other staff are poor because of despite significant pay increases.
Can we stop for just a minute? Stop this time. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes, sir.
George, this will be our last speaker. We've reached our time. My microphone wasn't on, so I wanted to make sure everybody understood. This will be our last speaker until the end of our agenda. Okay?
Thank you. That calls are not being returned and overall poor customer service. There's a divide between law enforcement and the community, and someone needs to restore the trust and faith in our sheriff's department that everybody deserves. The staff of the Sheriff's Department is working extremely hard in difficult conditions day and night. We're pushing the limits to keep the citizens safe in Calaveras County. For this letter to allege that we've lost the faith of the citizens and are providing poor customer service is misleading and slanderous. It's insulting to the membership, not only to the Deputy Sheriff's Association, but other staff members there that go out and risk everything every day and do the best we can with minimal staffing. I know for a fact there's 5 guys leaving right now. They're range masters, they're search and rescue coordinators, they're senior dive team members, and the sole reason they're leaving is lack of pay and lack of benefit package. And everybody knows that the only persons responsible for that is the board. And it's insulting that this person would use this rhetoric to gain political fodder amongst people who are uninformed of what's going on. So I'm here to tell the public that we are working extremely hard every day. We've had multiple guys work more than 20 days with 1 or 2 days off, over 12-hour shifts each day. It stresses the family, it stresses the deputies, and to say we're not doing enough or more can be done is just misinformed. And I'm here to let you guys know, and I'm here to let the citizens know that we are there for you and we're working as hard as we possibly can. Thank you.
All right, we are back in session. Madam Clerk, consent agenda.
Consent agenda items are expected to be routine and non-controversial. They will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member, staff member, or interested party may request removal of an item from the consent agenda for later discussion.
Is there any board member that wishes to pull an item from the consent agenda? Mr. Chair.
Item 17.
Item 17. Any other item from the board? If not, does staff have any item they would like to pull? Seeing none, members of the public, is there any public member? Please step up to the microphone so we can get you on.
I didn't know if you could hear me or not. 14 and 15, please.
Any other item? Seeing not, I'll bring it back to the board. We'll take a
Just 1 second. I can't see anything. Go ahead.
Jack forgot his glasses. Yes, his glasses. So we will take a minute.
What goes down there? Right, right goes down there. Too close. Was 18.
All right, we're back. So I am looking for a motion for the remainder of the consent agenda.
I'll move the balance, Chair.
I have a motion by Supervisor Mills.
I'll second it.
A second by Supervisor Clapp. Any further discussion? If not, call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Could you please confirm who made the second? I couldn't hear.
Supervisor Clapp.
Thank you.
And it was 5-0 vote. All right, moving on.
Item 14 is from Code Compliance to uphold an administrative citation for Paul and Jean Eastridge for code case 2064 and the property identified as APN 020-022-011 located at 4601 South Railroad Flat Road, Mountain Ranch, California 95246, authorizing abatement and a lien for administrative and abatement costs.
I believe I see Mr. Meinhardt back there. Are you here to be able to speak to that item?
I am. Mr. Wilson, you had a question on this item?
Yes, I do. My question on this is, what are the administrative abatement costs and lien to this property. I might want to bid on it. It's up in Railroad Flat. It's kind of a good place to grow illegally, isn't it?
Courtney Meinhardt, Calaveras County Code Compliance. The price on the lien, the abatement would not be that much. It would be the removal of a trailer and some garbage. So other than that, I don't have a cost.
Okay. Any other public comments or questions on this? If not, we'll bring it back to the board. Board comments or questions or a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to accept.
I'll second.
A motion by Supervisor Garamendi and a second by Supervisor Mills. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Mr. Wilson, you have a question on number 15?
Hold on.
Okay, hold on. I'm sorry.
Item
Madam
15 is from the Administrative Office to approve the annual payment of the $137,121 to University of California Cooperative Extension.
Since I just had two sons graduate from Columbia College with honors and distinction, I question a payment of $137,000 or $140,000, let's call it that, to the University of California Cooperative Extension. Both of my sons had to leave the county to obtain their college degrees. We signed up, I think, for 10 years ago, more, for an extension campus with the San Joaquin Community College. Was supposed to be built in Valley Springs area somewhere. Are we paying this $140,000 to the university for what? Just because we got so much money we don't know what to do with it? Let's give it to the California Extension. Can we take a course in this county? Can I go down and sign up somewhere? Can I take a course at a local high school, at a community anything? Do I have to take it online? What are we paying the University of California Cooperative Extension for?
Brian Moss, Administrative Office. Specifically, the UCCE program provides expertise guidance in the fields of agricultural and natural resources, pest management, youth development, that's 4-H, Master Gardener, nutrition, family, and consumer science, among others. It is not the campus in terms of a college and college courses. Actually, it is a program wherein it supports these things like natural resources. And again, 4-H, they've been on campus for many, many years. This is an ongoing agreement among multiple counties. As a matter of fact, our staff that we have for this program actually are shared in part with Tuolumne County as well. So this is something that you're going to find in most counties. Unfortunately, it is not what we think of as a college campus. A good example, when I was having my previous hat on in environmental health, sometimes people would come in and ask questions about given insects or given issues with plant diseases, that kind of thing. And so that was kind of a situation where both the ag commissioners sometimes would get involved and UCCE would get involved as well. So it's a resource, really, for people in the county. Like I say, what you see more than anything else is the support and the programs for 4-H, as well as our even Master Gardener program out here on campus. So that's really what this is.
This is something we do yearly. We've done for many years.
Correct.
Yep. So.
Correct.
Is there any other public comment on this item?
Just one question. Does this money come out of the general fund or where?
This money is allocated out of the general fund, yes.
I'll bring it back to the board.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
I have a motion by Supervisor Garamendi. Do I have a second?
I'll second it, but before I do, this is money that was allocated out of the general fund and has been budgeted from the general fund over year, correct?
Absolutely. This is not a new allocation or a new increase. This is the renewal of what has been a longer-term contract.
My second stance.
And in support of that, the annual payment to UCCE was approved by the board on July 12, 2016.
So I have a motion by Supervisor Garamendi, a second by Supervisor Mills. Call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Item 17 is from the Administrative Office to adopt a resolution continuing a local state of emergency for the winter storm damage from extreme weather events that began on January 7th, 2017 through the month of February 2017.
Supervisor Oliveira, you pulled this item.
I did, Mr. Chair. I have questions, probably of Michelle Patterson. We'll start with that. Good morning. Thank you for coming over.
Sure. Good morning. Michelle Patterson, OES Director for Calaveras County.
Can you give me a current update on the Murphy's Drive situation and the Blagan Road situation?
Yes.
And where we are in that process?
So next week, the notice of exemption is going to, for CEQA, is going to the OPR. I don't recall off the top of my head what that stands for at the state. Basically, starting our 35-day waiting period to go through that CEQA process. After that, we just need to get a couple of hydrology reports done, send those to FEMA to approve the hazard mitigation grant, and then we can get shovels in the ground.
Okay, who's administering that program?
Can you clarify the question? Which program?
Who's administering those two projects? I understand Quincy Construction was our manager.
So
Construction, are they still in charge of those programs?
No, it's the Office of Emergency Services is doing the project management for all of the Butte Fire and Winter Storm projects at this point.
Why is that? What happened?
There was a variety of things that we were concerned about as far as compliance with FEMA policies and procedures. So we decided that it was in the best interest of the county to put the project management back in the Office of Emergency Services.
To your knowledge, were you aware of any documentation, a 7-page memo that came out to reflect this particular issue?
I was not aware of a 7-page document, no.
Did we put this project back to step one, or are we continuing to actually proceed with this?
Oh, no, we're proceeding.
And who's going to actually do the management? It'll be your office?
Yes.
And we're right on schedule?
Oh, yeah.
And we don't anticipate any problem or delay?
As long as the process has been, so the process so far has been going really smoothly in getting us through all of the various clearances. And if we continue to move as quickly as we have been over the past couple of weeks, we should be making excellent progress.
Will they be administered through Public Works? Or are we doing it ourselves, or how are we going to handle that?
The actual construction of the project?
That's correct.
We're going to explore using Force Account. So
Force Account?
Yeah, for that project.
Under the direction of your office in Public Works?
In conjunction with Public Works, yes.
Okay. All right. Is there anything I need to know that I don't have to talk to you about right now?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of.
Thank you.
Yeah, no
Appreciate
problem.
it. Mr. Moss, are you available?
Okay.
Look at that. Thank you very much for waiting. Mr. Moss, I understand that you're going to be in charge of Public Works in an interim position?
That is correct, yes.
And is there a restructure of any Public Works and Planning Department that'll affect this project?
I don't see that would really affect that. As far as changes, I don't see them actually being an issue for OES. As a matter of fact, if anything, I see a greater support for OES, just even from an engineering standpoint.
And the work will be done on Force Account?
That is my understanding.
Can you explain Force Account for the folks?
Well, my understanding of Force Account is and I I am not really prepared for this one, but my understanding of force account actually is our existing labor and what can be reimbursed, as an example, by FEMA and or Cal OES. Okay, but again, there are very specific guidelines on how you actually do that.
Right, we're encroaching on this, that's not what's on the agenda, right?
Mr. Chair, I think that is on the agenda, and it's regarding projects in my district that were actually involving Murphy's Drive under the storm damage and under the FEMA program. Now, I understand that that program has been interrupted to an extent. We've actually released our contracting manager, and I want to make sure that we're able to go forward. I think it's very appropriate that we address this issue.
Can I add one piece to that? Last week at our presentation that was provided on recovery, which again, I mean, I recognize I'm a little outside of the scope of this item, but I just want to clarify. Last week when we provided the presentation, the timelines that were provided in that presentation were already based on this information, i.e. Quincy not being the project manager and Office of Emergency Services being the project manager. So the information that was provided to the board last week at the update is the same that Mr. Moss or Ms. Patterson would be referencing. So we don't feel, based on that discussion, that we've lost time. In fact, I think we've gained time.
Did the presentation, and I don't recall, I think I was here, involve the termination of Quincy contracting these two projects? I know it might have been based on it, but I wasn't aware of it. I was informed of that and the restructure of our public works and our planning department maybe at the fair by another employee. And I feel very slighted that this board or this administration did not inform me of what happened, especially in my district. And when another supervisor is having that discussion with another candidate and it comes to my attention, that's very unsettling.
Well, with all due respect, I think you were misinformed by whomever you spoke to, in that we certainly had the discussion last week about what our timelines were and what our transitional plan for public works has been. The goal obviously is not to lose any time.
Board Chair, I just want to clarify and bring the discussion, and obviously it's certainly within the scope of your discretion, Chair. However, this item is just the resolution to continue the resolution and continue the declaration of emergency. The updates as far as the project specifics are done in the agendized items for updates on the actual projects, which was done last week, and we can certainly bring another update forward for further discussion. But I do believe that this discussion is going beyond the item that is before the board today.
Okay.
So I encourage you to tighten.
Appreciate your advice, counsel. I am concerned about a 7-page memo that I'm going to need to see that wasn't provided, and I'm sure that we can take care of that administratively. Thank you, Mr. Moss.
Thank you.
Is there any public comments on this item?
Mr. Chairman, I'll have to say that I agree with you. If a member of the public had come up on this particular agenda item and going on a trip through the weeds, find some other project that may have been involved in it, we would have been told that we were off base. I agree with you. The fact that information was given to the supervisor regarding a project in his district and he doesn't remember it doesn't surprise me entirely, but I hate to see this process turned into a political campaign advertisement where all of a sudden we dig down in the weeds on an agenda item that makes it easy to get to as a board member and talk about their. No, I'm precisely speaking to the item.
and I hate to see this turn into a campaign event. Go ahead.
Okay, we'll have order out here, please. We'll have order. She is somewhat correct. I was about to cut you off, that we're talking about a resolution. He went off, I understand, but your comments need to this item. So
Yeah, hopefully the rules would apply to board members and members of the public when it comes to addressing items on the agenda. Thank you.
Other public comment on this item?
Tim McDonald, Calaveras County voter. Not sure it does relate to the item, but I think if it's a Blagan Road project and there is a 7-page memo, I want to know if that's going to be made available to the general public as well.
I haven't seen it either myself, so I don't even know if it exists, because I have not seen it. I don't know if anybody else has. So, but if it is, it will be public. If it can be, if it was issued by county council, then that's up to her discretion whether it will be made public or not. So,
on this agenda item number 17, I'm dismayed at Supervisor's consternation with, I don't know how to say it, being left out of the loop or something, and hearing secondhand conversations between a candidate or another supervisor is all kind of vague. We get a lot of vague stuff out in public. Can you guys, this just doesn't sit right. So figure out your game plans, include everybody. Don't make this a little personal. Don't get the clicks going on the board. You guys are going to kill this county.
all right. I'll close public comments and bring it back to the board. I'm looking for a motion.
So moved.
A motion by Supervisor Mills. Do we have a second?
Second.
A second by Supervisor Garamendi. Any other comments by board members? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Moving on to the regular agenda.
Mr. Chair, can we just take a very brief moment for a break so that our presenters can get set up?
Sure.
Thank
Take
you.
a 5-minute break. All right, we're back in session. Madam Clerk.
Item 20 is from the Administrative Office to receive a presentation to acknowledge the donation of 26 laptop computers for eligible foster youth in Calaveras County from the Rural County Representatives of California, RCRC, and the National Homebuyers Fund, Incorporated, NHF.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. Thank you for the time this morning. My name is Justin Caparuso, and I'm with the Rural County Representatives of California, better known as RCRC. And sitting next to me is Reed Cox, and he is with iFoster.
Good morning. Good morning.
We have a brief presentation to walk you through in a short video, and then we'll be open for questions as well. So RCRC was founded in 1972. We have 35 of the 58 California counties as members. The kind of commitment of our organization is to improving the ability of counties like yourselves to provide services by reducing the burden of state and federal mandates, promoting a greater understanding among policymakers at the state level and federal level about the unique challenges that face California's small population counties. Supervisor Garamendi sits on our board of directors as the delegate for your county this year. Under the umbrella of RCRC are a couple of affiliate organizations, one of which is called National Homebuyers Fund. National Homebuyers Fund, or NHF, was founded in 2002 and has assisted 37,700 individuals across 35 states purchase a home, so operating within the entirety of the United States, and provided more than $319 million in down payment assistance to those families. Through the resources provided through NHF and the other affiliate organization called Golden State Finance Authority, RCRC has been able to develop a platform of giving back and several give back programs. The first being a veterans housing project in partnership with NHF, a 12-unit homeless veterans housing project that we brought to completion in Sacramento County. That was 2 years ago that we completed that, and the final families are moving in at the end of this last phase this year. That was in partnership with Volunteers of America and Home Aid. One of the second Give Back programs is a human trafficking education program that was rolled out to all 35 of our member counties over the last 3 years. We're in the final year of that. And that was funded through RCRC and NHF in partnership with 3 nonprofit organizations. Protect is a program for 5th, 7th, 9th, and 11th grade on human trafficking. The third Give Back program that we've been able to assist our counties with is through the Golden State Finance Authority affiliate, and that has been emergency disaster assistance. And you may recall that Calaveras County was a recipient of $450,000 of those funds in response to the Butte fire. This video is our president and CEO kind of discussing the reason behind the Give Back programs.
RCRC and 2 of its affiliate entities, Golden State Finance Authority and National Homebuyers Fund, have created 3 Give Back programs to help support our rural communities that we serve. One of them is a human trafficking education and prevention awareness program being implemented in all the public schools of 35 rural counties in California in the 5th, 7th, 9th, and 11th grades with approved curriculum.
I can tell you as a prosecutor in these cases that the impact on the victims is devastating. They continue to suffer long after the perpetrators are sentenced to prison. What Protect does is it gives these kids a chance at the front end so that they're never trafficked to begin with.
Another is the rehabilitation or renovation of an apartment complex to house homeless veterans and their families so that they get not just a roof over their head, but an ability to be on a path to really get things back on the right track for them and their families.
Currently, we have 4 families that moved in as our first residents, and now we're finishing 2 additional buildings that will have 8 more families. As Volunteers of America, I just sincerely want to say thank you to our community partners. It's a long list, but without them, and especially RCRC, this would not have been possible.
The third is a disaster assistance program to help Calaveras and Lake counties from the fires in 2015, where so many families lost their homes and so many structures were destroyed. We've provided $1.5 million so they could get back on their feet. Because after those fires occurred, a number of them left with nothing more than the clothes on their back.
We had no time. The fire was moving 85 feet in 1 minute. Anything that fire touched, it burnt it.
Well, RCRC helped out so much. Thank God that, they were there to help.
The mission, the purpose of the organization is to enhance and protect the quality of life in rural California. And so all 3 of these efforts that we are participating in do that to different degrees. But I love that we have an organization of board members that would support doing this. I feel proud to be a part of it, and I'm very thankful for other employees and board members that have completely joined into the effort.
And good morning. I'm Reed Cox, co-founder of iFoster. We're a national nonprofit that serves the needs of children being raised outside of their biological homes. We're based out of Truckee, California, and we serve all 50 states. A little background on the plight of children in foster care. There's currently about 430,000 children being raised by not their parents, removed due to abuse, neglect, or violence, being raised sometimes by community members, sometimes by trained and licensed foster parents. Those licensed foster parents receive about 50% of the average cost of raising a child that an average family would spend raising their own biological children. So the children that they're raising in the foster care system do without a lot of the resources and opportunities that other children will have in their lifetimes. The stats are terrible. Less than 50% of children in foster care will graduate high school. Over 70% will be on some form of social assistance when they age out of the system. 50% will be homeless. Less than 3% will ever get a college degree. And so providing laptops to children in foster care who otherwise would not have the resources to keep up with their peers in high school and see the world beyond their walls is tremendous. So thank you so much. We're blessed to have received funding from RCRC to distribute over 1,200 laptops across the 35 rural counties.
So in At our annual, RCRC has an annual meeting in September each year, and in 2016, one of the panel topics was foster care, and iFoster served on that panel. In 2017, the boards of directors for RCRC and NHF both unanimously voted to provide $200,000 each in funding and contribution to provide a laptop computer to every eligible foster youth age 16 to 21 in care in RCRC's 35 member counties.
I think an obvious question is, what difference does a laptop make in the life of a child? We conducted a study on 780 foster youth across California in 4 different counties, 2 of which were rural, 2 of which were urban. That study was conducted by the University of Southern California, and the results of that were absolutely staggering. We're going to see on the next slide, which I'll actually go to now. Oh, the one with the bar chart. There we go. 90% of teenagers in the U.S. have access to a computer where they live. 79% of low-income teenagers have access to a computer where they live. And when you look at teenagers in the foster care system in California, 20% of urban youth and less than 5% of rural foster youth have access. If California foster children were a country, we would rank in the bottom 2% globally in the resources that we provide to them. Go back. So by providing these youth, these 780 youth, with laptops and measuring the differences it made in their lives, we found in 3 major categories. I think the most obvious one is academic performance. Not surprisingly, we had improved grades, we had reduced truancy, and we had increased pursuit of further education and employment. We found much stronger social networks, improved relationships with social workers, with the court system, biological families, and foster families. And then a little bit surprisingly, we found massive increases on the social aspects and psychological aspects, increased self-esteem, reduced depression, and staggeringly reduced attempts at suicide, all from providing a youth with a $300 computer. The process, which we've got pretty much dialed in by now, we've distributed over 12,000 laptops nationwide. California is our home state. We've done about 1/3 of those in California. We work very closely with the child welfare system to identify youth who do not have a computer and are in need of a computer. We have a partnership that we worked out with Microsoft, who very kindly donates Windows and Office. They donate about $180 worth of software on every laptop we distribute. And these are the laptops that we actually developed in partnership with Microsoft and Intel for this program. We conduct monthly follow-ups with each one of the youth that receives a computer to make sure that they still have it, that it's functioning, that it's serving the purpose that they need, and providing any tech support that they need. And then we are continuing the study. We're doing a second round of the evaluation that we did on the first 780 youth. So the youth in Calaveras County will be part of this much larger study. And the benefit of the study is we want to take this program federally and make sure that within these supplements that foster care families receive, that there will be a portion that is allocated to give them the technology they need to succeed in school and compete. And then lastly, the laptop is an access point. Right? Not only does it provide the tools that they need to learn things like Word and Office, complete their homework assignments, etc., but it also opens up the world to them. It opens up a program we call the TAY Assistant, which is a partnerships we have with over 400 different global corporations who provide the resource and services that they provide to all of us that we buy. They will provide it to our community at either greatly reduced prices or free. This includes things like tutoring, eyeglasses, orthodonty, all the services that these youth are not getting to help make up that 50% lack in funding that the government provides children being raised outside of their biological homes. So the youth in Calaveras County will have access to all of those resources, as well as all the other youth that we provide this to.
So here locally, over the next month, 26 laptops will be distributed by your social workers through their individual meetings with the foster youth age 16 to 21 in the county. And we just want to thank county staff for working with us and working with iFoster. The eligibility requirements and kind of going through the assessment to determine how many laptops are needed in each county and how the distribution will happen is quite cumbersome. So we appreciate you guys being one of the first of our 35 members to walk through that process with us. And we thank the board for allowing us to be here, and again, thank our board of directors for this contribution to California's rural counties.
I do, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. You're willing to support the foster children in our county. As a former foster parent myself, I can tell you that mine did graduate from high school. The point is, though, is that your laptop has an expected life cycle. Do you know about how long that would be?
From a physical standpoint, they're warranted for a year. From a physical standpoint, they're made out of a much more durable plastic. They're drop resistant. So from a form factor standpoint, several years. From a software standpoint, that's the question mark, is when does the motherboard not support software upgrades? But the quick answer would be 3 to 5 years.
So enough to get them through high school,
yes,
if they're identified.
And that particular model, what's unique about it, it has an 11-hour battery life, and that's one of the big issues for kids is getting to school and not being able to recharge a laptop or college. So it's extra durable, extra long battery life.
So you've thought this through and
We've gone through a few of them.
kind of know where the market is. Excellent. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Supervisor Garamendi.
First, I'd like to say it's an honor to serve on the board, and I really want to continue to thank RCRC and Golden State Financial and our affiliate organizations for supporting this county after the Butte fire. The members that contribute have no more money than we do for the most case, and so they're stepping up to help out their neighbors and friends who will always be appreciated in this county. And then please pass that on to the staff that participated in that as well. And this is a great program. When I saw the original presentation and the impact that a $300 computer can make on a kid's life, it's a no-brainer. It's very rare that you could find that critical point or you could step in. So I'm very proud that this is happening in our county, and I'm proud of RCRC and all the work that they're doing to help out rural communities. Thank you.
All right, we'll open it up to public comments. Public comments on this issue?
Good morning. Happy Tuesday, Calaveras County Board of Supervisors, and thank you, RCRC, for being here. My name is Laura Larson. I'm the Program Manager over Child Protective Services. And I, for one, am very thankful for programs like this because it truly does take a village to raise a family. And programs like this really help remove some of the needs and some of the barriers that our foster youth have. In Calaveras County, we have 113 children in foster youth, and 26 of those qualify for this program. And this is just one element of a very large need base for these children that helps them move towards success in their life. So I'm very thankful for that. In addition to the donation of the laptops, we have a lot of internal staff that are involved. Kelly is here. She's the social worker that's overseeing this program, and she's actually brought with us, very happy, come on up, brought 2 youth who are going to receive the laptop, so they're going to share with you as well.
My name is Kelly. I'm a social worker at Calaveras Health and Human Services, and it's been a long morning for some of us. I do want to thank iFoster and everyone involved for providing computers for our youth. Our youth are in desperate need of a way to access online classes, connections with their families and friends, as well as looking for jobs and creating resumes and et cetera, things that they need to do research on. So I want to thank them from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much. I want to introduce Adriana.
Hello, I'm Adriana.
Good morning.
And with receiving the laptops pretty soon, I will be going to school in the fall. So that means I can be a stay-at-home mom and go to school for the career I want to be in. And I would like to say thank you guys for doing that. That's awesome. And that's it. Thank you.
So I'm Kai. I'm a foster youth. I was put in at 16, and I know for a fact, at least for me, this computer is not only going to help me do college, but I'm going to look up different ways that I can do at-home work, because I have social anxieties in bigger places. I'm not much of a people person, so I prefer to work alone, have my laptop, do tech support, calls. I don't really care. This will honestly help me make money without having to go out of my social bubble. So thank you guys very much for having this program.
Thank you.
I want to applaud you gentlemen for this whole program. I wish it was nationwide. I hope it gets there. One of the concerns I might have is I hope that these children, when they receive this laptop, also receive online a high-speed internet connection, because that laptop without a good connection puts you in a car without gas. And without gas, you don't get very far. Without being able to be online and be online consistently and not be throttled by some minutes or hours or time that they can be on there. I have children that spend hours and hours on computers, unfortunately. And actually a good thing too. Anyway, I think it's a great idea. I hope you've contacted HP, IBM, and every other tech community and tech manufacturer out there. I know that coming from that area, that they're very generous with their funding, and like you say, Microsoft stepped up and provided all the software for these units. I think it's a great thing. I just hope the program gets bigger. Thank you.
Other public comments?
Ann Hill from District 2. My question is kind of follow-up from there. High speed. How do these kids up country connect? I've been asking for 17 years for high speed up where I live, and even at the fair and all this year, there's no high speed for some of us up in the higher country. So you give these computers to kids, and then they can't connect them to anything. So what are you doing there? Do you only give them to the kids down lower where that can connect on, or what's the program like that?
Sure.
Thanks.
You've identified a bigger issue than we've been able to figure out how to solve. The access to the internet is a series of ISPs spread across the country, right? And there's all sorts of regulation around where they will and won't go and how much they'll charge. The key for us in distributing the laptops is that it has all the software on it resident, so that it doesn't have to be tethered to the internet. A Chromebook, you have to be tethered on the internet in order to access the software. These have full resident versions of Office and Windows. So we cannot currently solve the I can't get on the internet issue. All we can do is make sure that the youth have the tool in their hands that they need, that it functions offline as well as online. And unfortunately, they're going to need to get to a place where they can get internet access. That's just an issue that's well beyond our capacity to solve. And if we waited to solve that issue, kids wouldn't get computers for 20 years. So sorry about that, but we'd like to solve it.
Other public comments? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. I'm seeing this as an action item, so we need a motion.
Mr. Chair. Oh, I'm sorry. RCRC, Your Honors.
Okay. I'd like to move to accept these gifts of computers.
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
I have a motion by Supervisor Garamendi and a second by Supervisor Oliveira. Any other board comments? If not, I'll call for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 5-0. Thank you so much. Thank you.
guys.
And we'll take a couple-minute break for them to get organized and break down. All right, we're back in session. Madam Clerk.
Item 21 is from the Economic Development Department to receive a presentation from Government Financial Strategies Incorporated on the proposed transient occupancy tax increase.
And since Kathy is out of town today, I will just kick off this piece for her. This is in follow-up to a discussion we had back in April at the board on having government financial solution or strategies, come in and give us a presentation on the consulting work they're doing for us for the transient occupancy tax measure that tentatively we're targeting for the November ballot. And of course, I know some of you guys might have met her before. If not, Lori Ranieri is here also with Matt Kohler. Thank you.
Good morning, Lori and Matt.
So thank you guys for coming down.
So I'm Lori, this is Matt.
The light will come on red up top.
And red means it's okay to talk?
It's ready to go.
Okay, thank you. I'm Lori Ranieri, this is Matt Coker, my service dog Daisy is over there, and we've learned that she should not roll over, creak the floor, and upset the electronics. So hopefully there won't be any problem today. I really appreciate all of the questions. I'm sorry I wasn't here when you were asking them before, so hopefully today, we did watch the video of the meeting where you discussed our role, and hopefully we'll cover all of your questions today. And I have a brief presentation along with some additional reference material. I'm going to go over just the front part of the presentation and be glad to answer questions. So first I want to start by introducing government financial strategies in terms of our historical role with the county, what we've done over the years, and what our role is as we consider the possibility of a TOT measure. I want to talk about community engagement, the deliberation process, and then, as I mentioned, items in the for reference section. So I'm the president and founder of Government Financial Strategies. Our company has been around for almost 30 years. We'll celebrate our 30th anniversary this year. You can see that I have a lot of professional designations. And the first thing I want to address about that is you might say, yeah, you get a lot of letters after your name. The importance of that is that we take our profession very seriously with our continuing education and our professional standards, which are not only meant to provide you with some assurance, but it also means that in addition to what you would like to happen, we bring those professional standards to you for your thought process. This is our understanding of what are the best practices. Matt is Client Services Director, and he supports our company's effort. We actually have 13 people in our company, and some of the people who've been around in the county for a long time will also remember Jonathan Edwards of our staff. He's most memorable to people who are trying to remember who he is. He has an Australian accent, and he came here many times. But he did move back to Australia, and he tried to quit the company, and we, kind of like the mafia, we said, no, let's try keeping you in. And he actually does work for the county from Australia. And so he's on video conference and on phone conferences and email, but he doesn't come in person to the meetings. But if you hear that accent, you know it's coming from down under. Our company is dedicated to working with public agencies. We have we're very careful about conflicts of interest, and in fact, we have over the years done some work for the City of Angels Camp, but recently they put out an RFP. We declined to participate because we work for you. And we've been serving the county since 2005. Now, this is just I know it seems like a boring small font list, but we just wanted to give you a sense of the breadth of what we do for the county over many years since 2005. And this is what I would say. The counties, Calaveras County in particular, but all counties are very horizontal. There's a lot of people who do various financial work for the county, department heads, including some departments which are specifically about finance, the CAO's office. So one of our roles, we're like another financial person that tries to bring all that together when there's a special project, because all of these departments are very operational in their work, and we have an understanding of what everybody's doing, and we really support the CAO's office in bringing that all together. The other thing is we're very busy and we're not interested in doing things that someone else is already doing. So we're sort of plugging in where there needs to be someone to push this item along. And hopefully, because of our familiarity with the county and our financial expertise, when we plug in, it's not in a disruptive way, it's in a supportive way and doesn't interrupt the general operational flow of business. And that's another reason why, although all of our clients stumble over the name of the company, Government Financial Strategies, we try to be coming in and help our clients with strategic efforts that need that extra labor and expertise, as opposed to the day-to-day operations where you have full-time staff working on it. So there's many things we've worked on over the years having to do with new development, the tobacco settlement revenues, the new jail project, dealing with pension obligations. And our last presentation before this board, not all of the people, but in this room, was 2016. So it's been a while since we've been here. But one thing about the jail project is over the years since the measure passed, we've had reflected to us how positive the process was to get to that measure in terms of being very inclusive and having time to take into account everybody's perspective and history. And for some of the people who remember way back to 2007, about 2 years before that, we started looking at a capital improvement plan, and we ended up with a bond that was about the jail because that's where there was a consensus that developed about what was important to do with a bond. And so we're trying to approach things with a very positive and consensus-oriented view in considering the possibility of a TOT measure. Now, our firm is regulated, Municipal Advisor, we're regulated by the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board. And so we are a fiduciary to the county. We provide independent advice, and that includes communication about financial options with county staff, elected officials, and community members. And we're very detail-oriented, so we did provide a very specific scope of work for our work in helping with the TOT, and that was an addendum to our contract that we have with the county. So that's how it works. If something comes up that the county would like help with, if it's just a question here or there, it goes under our general scope of work. If there's a specific endeavor, we prepare a written scope of work, and that's reviewed with staff, and then we start working on that. Now, something that you may not know, but the Auditor Controller's Office knows when they see our bills, as well as the CAO's office, every invoice our company has sent out in the history of the company has printed right on it, 100% satisfaction guaranteed, 100% of the time. Now, I've been told that that is not a grammatically correct sentence, but that is the way I wrote it when I started the company, and we have stuck with that. Our goal is not to gin up a bunch of hours. Our goal is to make sure that the county's goals are met and that we are scoping the budget so that there is no surprises. And often, when you're on a tight timeline, as this TOT measure may be, you need labor to jump in and get things done because county staff are busy, and so that's part of our role. And when we think about community engagement, we want to share information about the county situation, and we want to receive input from the community. There are several distinct communities within the county, and of course, public resources may not be used for campaigning. County Council Steadfield will provide information on exactly what the do's and don'ts are, but providing information and receiving information is part of the job. We need to do that. And just some questions for you to think about. And I've been in this board room many, many times, and I see lots of people come and speak. And what I think about is there's people here who are expressing themselves and who are also fairly knowledgeable just because they found their way to this room and have something to say. But what does the general public know about county services? What do they know about the need for additional county revenue? What do they know about the county and how finances are managed, even where we get our money, how we spend our money? My experience being in finance is that most people would like to ask me a financial question, but they don't want to wait for the answer. And what I mean by that is people are either interested in finance or they're not. And so they want to have a general answer, and so we want to be ready with good information to support you and all of the county decision makers, but we realize that for most people, they don't necessarily want my explanation of currency exchange or whatever it happens to be. So we want to know, what do people know? How do they understand how finances are managed? What do they care about? And how do traditional constituencies overlap with constituencies for measures submitted to voters? Because that's a very distinct thing to walk into a voting booth and vote, as opposed to any number of encounters with government services that you may have, or a need for service and you don't have an encounter with that service. You're feeling that it's missing. Very, very different, those experiences. Now, one of the things that I think is very interesting about Calaveras County and our history with voter-approved measures is that it seems as if people are either overwhelmingly opposed or overwhelmingly in support. And these are our historical measures. The ones on the top that are pink are the ones that did not pass. The ones that passed are in green. And what you'll see is it's very consistent on the ones that passed that we get over 2/3 vote. But on the ones that failed, there's only one that even got 52%, and the other two got even less than that. So my point is, in some communities, there's kind of a gray area between 50% and 2/3 that you're trying to travel. That does not seem to be the case, at least based on this history, that things in this county, there's either a strong support or a strong opposition. At least that's what I'm seeing in this data. Any questions about that? Okay. Now, we have, this chart is showing you what other counties are charging in terms of TOT, and we've been calling this hotel stay tax because people don't seem to know what transient occupancy tax means. It's a hard term. Some people know, but it's a hard term. So we've been referring to it as hotel stay tax, and I'm sure there's somebody who's like a branding person who would say, oh no, these are the right words, but these are the words we've arrived at for now to understand what we're talking about. And I will say, my last hotel stay that I had myself in another county, it said occupancy tax. And I didn't really feel that I had fully occupied the room, just slept there a few hours, but that's what it was. In any case, you can see both the counties in the area, other municipalities, including the City of Angels Camp, and you can see that our county is quite low compared to where everyone else is. We're not quite as low on other taxes, but this one for sure. And then the county voter demographics, one of the things that's very predictive of whether a vote will go a certain way is actually independent of the measure and really dependent on the type of measure. So, for example, there are communities where people are kind of generally opposed to tax increases, and there's communities where they're generally in favor of more services. I won't say they're in favor of more taxes, but they're more in tune with we want that extra service. There are others where I don't really care what the service is, I don't want the tax, right? So, and so one of those things has to do with we have to go with the data available because, of course, people's votes are confidential. But what we do know is that the voter profile, because we do know how many people register as Republicans versus something else, we do have a high number of Republicans compared to Democrat and other. And we actually have a lot of other in Calaveras County. So that tells you a lot of independent-minded thinkers, and I definitely have seen that with the people who speak in public here. Lots of opinions and thoughts, and I think it's important then to recognize the need for community engagement around something that involves voters, because we do have this diverse group. So one of the things that we recommended to the county, and we're underway with the work of that, is a public opinion survey. Now, that's not work that we do, but we assisted with a request for proposal to get a survey researcher. And the survey should answer some very basic questions. Whether a measure could be successful at all under any circumstances. There are some communities where you're so far from being able to have a successful measure, you just have to step back and do different work to think about that. But that's what we're looking for. Are we in an environment where a measure could be successful? And if we are, what are the elements crucial for success? What are the services to be funded? What does it cost? What do people need to know about it to make a good decision? And then what should the election date be? And the election date is important not only because different people vote in different elections, but also what else is on the ballot. And I know for myself, if I see a ballot and I'm getting down to like the 20th thing to vote on, I'm a lot more tired of everything I've been asked to vote on than I am if it has 3 items on the ballot. So those are things that we need to understand. The process, we want to use a competitive process to get the best value for the county. We did a request for proposals. We had written proposals received. Our office analyzed those and provided a written memo to staff. And then we interviewed the responsible respondents via video conference, which was good in that they didn't have to travel just for that. And our goal a lot of people think interviews are just about hiring the right firm. Our goal of that interview process, as you know, Supervisor Clappin, thank you for participating, was to become more knowledgeable consumers of survey research. And so we had 3 different firms interviewed, and I'll leave it to you to describe whether you felt more knowledgeable at the end of it. I do this all the time, and I still learn new things, because the way to understand public opinion, it's a science, but it's a changing science that gets modernized. We did select a firm out of that process. The name of the firm is FM3 because there's 3 people with the last name that begins with F and then 1 person with an M, so they call it FM3. It should be, in my view, I'm a math person, it should be F3M, but they call themselves FM3. And the survey method of getting information is both telephone and email. And then our expectation is that on June 26th, there would be a presentation as to what the survey revealed. Right now, the questionnaire is being developed. Now and I want to say that that's all community engagement, opportunity to provide information, opportunity to receive information. Now, the Frog Jubilee was a great opportunity to get more input. And one of the things that we did that came out of our conversations was there's been a messaging around how much people love Calaveras. And so we did these message boards. You may have seen them at the fair. I'm sure you're going to get a more extensive presentation on how this works. There was also an informational booth. So you're going to hear more about this. But one of the things in thinking about raising new revenue with any kind of a measure, it has to come out of a positive environment. People have to be positive about, I'm willing to have this additional tax, whether I pay it or not. I'm willing to have it in my community because of what I'm going to get for it, and that I believe it's a good value, and that it will be stewarded properly. Those are just sort of basic messages that go along with any kind of a measure. So here's the deliberation process we've been working on with staff to allow the board to make a decision about whether you would like to have a TOT measure either on the November ballot or a future ballot. So obviously you know that you appointed the ad hoc committee. There's been 4 meetings to date. We've attended 1 of those. So again, the staff is being judicious as to when they bring us in to support. We're happy to attend whatever meetings the CAO's Office in Economic Development feel are useful for us. And then we had this RFP process to get the survey firm, and now the survey questionnaire is being developed. And obviously there was some support for engagement at the fair, and now we're here at May 22nd. So what's going to happen after this day is June 26th, the survey results presented, and then if those survey results tell us that there is a ballot measure that might be effective with the community, then we'll have a presentation. Here's what the survey said. Here's a ballot measure that would respond to the desires of the community, and then the board, if you wanted to proceed, you would give direction for that, and there would be a opportunity on July 24th for you to approve a measure that would go on the November ballot, and so on, as you can see. Now, it may be the case that the survey says that we shouldn't do a ballot measure or that we shouldn't do it now. Now, obviously, from a financial perspective, we know we need additional revenue. The question of whether we should do it and what time we should do it and all those features, those are based on public input. And the decision makers in a ballot measure are the people who are registered to vote, who vote. And very often in a survey, we find surprising information because not everybody who is registered to vote and is a voter speaks up in public. And I can tell you just my own perspective. I live in a community, I pay taxes. Just because of what I do, I never go to the podium in a public meeting, even though I'm asked. I just simply do not participate in my community that way because of what I do for a living. I feel like it just would be bad form. People ask me privately, I'll give them my opinion. But that's not what I do. But there are people who do that. So we have to, it's another way of getting information. And this is not our only way. Not only will you continue to take information here, but there's the town hall meeting, Supervisor Clapp, that you've been having, and there's many other opportunities. We want to continue to have that community engagement. So I have lots of stuff in the background, overview of how hotel stay taxes work, or TOT measures, if you will, historical and budgeted county hotel stay tax revenue, current use of the revenue, statewide election history on this kind of tax, and then the rates throughout California. I will say one thing, just to prevent anybody saying it, because I think the evidence doesn't support it, which is that people often say that people should be in favor of a TOT measure. If they live somewhere, that's where they vote, they should be in favor because they don't necessarily pay it, because they're not staying in hotels. And what I just want to share with you, if that were true, then I think you'd see these things pass all over the state routinely. And I'm going to share with you that's not the evidence. So that's one of the reasons that the survey is so important, is to find out what people think. One other thing that I would say that we are recommending to the Economic Development and CIO's office and working on is that we've always, in Calaveras County, as long as I've been working here since 2005, been very inclusive of department heads and the financial leadership in all the conversations, and we want to continue to do that because they have insight into how people think about financial matters, and some of those people also run for elections, so they get talked to in the public about financial matters. So we want to get as much information as possible before you are faced with a deadline to consider a November election, so that you have that information. And we also want you to be able to ask further questions and direct us to do further research. So that's the essence of our presentation, but glad to answer any questions or go through any of the reference material.
Supervisor Garamendi, your light's on.
Thank you, Mr. Riley. Thank you so much for coming up today. You watched the video, so you know I was the dissenting vote against your contract. You're now on our team, so we'll saddle up and get going. But there were a couple questions that I asked in that meeting. As you were well aware, I had problems with this because I'm not so sure there's a proper use of public funds. There was no RFP, and there was no scope of work when it was presented to us. Nonetheless, the vote went through, and we're together now. My questions that weren't answered in your presentation haven't been answered yet. Take us back to 2007. One of the questions I asked in the meeting last time was, how were you paid in that, and what was your role in that campaign?
So we don't do campaign work because we're a financial advisor, not a campaigner. So when we had the jail bond, we were initially brought in, and I actually have this on a slide, so I'll go back to it. We were originally brought in because the county was under some pressure from a land developer that wanted a community facilities district put in for their development. And as soon as one person broached that line, we had pop-ups of other developers who wanted that, and we did several things. Not only did we meet and work on that, what was the county's policy going to be with forming community facilities districts for new development? And one of the things that came out of that was the formation of the debt committee and the debt policy, which actually it has a very nice priority of when the county will consider taking on debt, with the first priority being for the general public, the second priority being specific neighborhood or community areas, and the third priority being to be responsive to developers. And then there's many, many things that came out of that. For example, one of the things that forming that debt committee and having that focus on what are we really committing to long term in terms of debt actually focused on something else that the county was doing, which was the county had been for years buying safety vehicles on lease purchases, which meant every few years we were taking on debt, and the debt was extending beyond the lifespan of the safety vehicles. And there were several other things like that that just came out of having this debt committee, because someone would say, here's something that's been bothering me for years, I don't think this makes sense. So we actually did a lot of financial improvement, and I'll defer to some of the people who are involved to speak to the quality of our work, but I think because we've still been around, it's because everyone was satisfied. So our contract has been renewed every few years, and so this scope of work that we provided for this work was just an addendum to that existing contract. But our work is, we help organize the debt committee meetings, create the agendas, we do the financial modeling about how much is this, like if we were going to do a CFD, what's the tax, how does it work, who's it apply to. In the case of the most recent thing with the pension obligation, or the second most recent thing, the pension obligation bonds, we did all the analysis with Rebecca Callan's office as to why that was a better way to go than to have the side fund obligation, so all the financial modeling and presentations in front of board. Then the most recent thing, we did some refinancing of outstanding debt, and that was, we do all that financial modeling, as well as assist with getting the competitive bids for the financing, et cetera.
I do not question your qualifications on financial strategy at all. My question is specifically what, as that 2007 campaign came about, were you doing similar work than you're proposing to do for us, that you are going to do for us here? And what was the payment mechanism?
So we were paid by the hour. I'd have to look to see exactly what we were paid, because it was a long time ago, and I'm sorry I didn't have that number for you. But we're paid by the hour, and so our work basically went up to the point of the board calling to put the measure on the ballot. And by that point, we'd made several presentations, both in the debt committee and the board, so there was lots of factual information that there was a campaign effort, and I know the sheriff was a very frequent speaker at that time on that measure. Our information was used, but our work was done during that campaign part because we're paid by the county, so we're not doing that campaigning. And then after the measure was successful, we assisted the county in the financial modeling of how the bonds would fit into the state funding that we were getting for the project, and then we arranged the competitive sale of the bonds, et cetera.
Okay, so let me try to clarify. So the work that you did in 2007 was not the same work that we're doing now?
No, it is the same.
You did the survey work?
No, we don't do the survey work.
Right, you contracted out the survey work for John Fairbanks from whomever?
Right.
I mean, I'm trying to figure out, are we comparing apples and apples? And I guess to be specific, and maybe Tim knows, did we pay you with bond revenues? Did we pay with general fund? How were you paid? My concern is how we're using our public funds.
You're talking specifically for the jail?
Well, for the jail bond, yes. In the presentation we had for this, that was cited
I'd have
as...
to research what we did on the jail. If I recall, we might have used, and it was spelled out with the certificates of participation, some of those funds to support. Well, no, that would have been before the COP, actually.
Right, so the work that we do on a specific financial transaction, and there's some federal laws that apply, once it's clear that you're going to borrow, and we're actually doing that specific
So it was a
effort,
commission
it's
when it was done?
No, it's not a commission. We're actually the only financial advisor that I know of in the United States that does not take a commission. So we're paid by the hour or a flat fee for the work that we do. So but the source of the funds was the bond itself for that jail bond. Now, the work that we did prior to the measure being put on the ballot was paid to us from the county, and whether the county reimbursed itself for what we were paid for our hourly work prior to the measure being put on the ballot, if that was actually reimbursed from bond proceeds, I don't know offhand, but I could check.
Okay.
But we do not do contingent work for the obvious ethical reason, even though I know that is common in the industry.
I would appreciate that. I was asked for it at the last presentation on this, and I was hoping I was going to get the answer. Just final question is, have you worked on a TOT campaign before?
We've not had one come to ballot. We have worked with other counties on the consideration.
Excuse me, gentleman in the back. Excuse me, gentleman in the back. Can you please take it outside if you're going to continue to talk, or keep it down? Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I have no further questions.
Supervisor Mills, your last one.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Ranieri. I was sitting in the audience when you did that presentation back in December of 2016, and it was very well thought out, a very good presentation. I have the same expectations for what you'll be able to provide here as far as information. Although you won't be doing the surveys, I think that is an opportunity to find out what keywords strike a positive note with potential voters. And if we can understand, I can refer back to Prop 47 saying it was for safer schools. What keywords will give us the better response and cause people to have a little bit better overall result at the poll. So keywords, I think, are going to be a key. I looked at the words that were used in those previous attempts, and convoluted at best, to say that you can leave voters very confused, and as a result, they'll just say no. So we have to be very careful on how we present if this is going to be, we're one of the lowest taxed counties in California, if I remember correctly. So this is an opportunity for us to, as long as the voters understand why and the reason we're going to want to do this and what the effects are overall on our economy. The current occupancy rate, by the way, in Angels Camp is 91%. That's just amazing that that's screening for more hotels and motels in Calaveras County. So it isn't like we don't need more, but we're not going to get more if we don't have a driver to accomplishing that goal. So keywords, very important.
Any other board questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll open it up to the public. Public comments, questions?
I thought we didn't need $13 million. How come we're trying to tax hotels and motels now? In RR, can we have a bed and breakfast? Can I set up a hotel in my non-existent garden anymore? I got 3,000 square foot of camping area. You can bring your trailer, water, electricity. Interesting. We need to spend our money for people to come and tell us how to tax our citizens and our visitors to our county when we have 3 board members that say we don't need taxes, even though the voters voted for that. Why would the voters support a tax on hotels when they voted for something, and we have 3 individuals on the board who said, we don't care what you people want. We don't care if you people want that money from regulated stuff. We'll just raise the hotel taxes. We'll get more developers to come in, build more hotels. You gentlemen are just too much.
Chair, I'd like to recognize Mr. Lynch as the former mayor of Angels Camp.
Sure.
Good morning. Jack Lynch from Angels Camp. I was on the city council for 8 years. Angels Camp had already instituted its transient occupancy tax before I came on the council. Angel Camp right now is at 10%. As board members, you are listening to probably the premier organization to help the county in this effort. While I was on the board, we looked at a sales tax. We used this group to do the telephone survey. I am in the process of discarding all my papers from various meetings of the city council. The one group of papers that I am not discarding is the group of papers and studies prepared by this group. The excellence in terms of analysis of the phone survey told us what we could expect. But further than that, the comments that she has made, and I saw firsthand, of the financial analysis, the strategy, that's the name of their organization. You are blessed to have them again helping you. Now, as a final comment on transient occupancy tax, at 10% in Angels Camp, it is the #1 source of revenues for our city, transient occupancy tax. It exceeds sales tax. It exceeds property tax. So I hope the board is disposed towards a transient occupancy tax. Thank you for your time.
Marty Crane. I've been under the radar for a few months, so I was not aware that this selection was made with no RFP, no prior notice to the public or any discussion, so that part really, really bothers me. I think we have a process for how we go about contracting, and it feels like that was not followed. I've always been in favor of raising the TOT. It didn't make any sense to be at 6 when everything around us was higher, way higher. And yes, this might be the premier group, but it still bothers me that what I heard from Supervisor Garamendi was that there was no, did I get that right? There was no RFP, there was no, it's like, it sounds like a back door. I don't know. Bothers me. Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Al Segala, Taxpayer Association. Normally, we represent the taxpayers in our county, but the poor people that'll be paying this don't have any representation, so they're going to have to do with me. Wouldn't it be great if we had a slogan that said, "Come to Calaveras County, we tax you less. We tax you less." What a blessing. Every dollar that is taken by tax from people that come to our county is one less dollar that goes in circulation for our sales tax and other things as well. It seemed like we have the most, I think, the greatest Visitors Bureau in the state. They're just fantastic people, and they're producing in spite of having only a 6% TOT tax. I wonder if we lowered the TOT tax to maybe 5% or 4%, would they get even better? They're raising money other ways. There's two ways that people can exchange money. One is through theft or taxation, which is very similar, or by agreement. Okay, our country is founded on the idea that people have individual rights, and that the way that people move ahead is through agreements. We have contract law, we have a whole process of civil law called common law. Our Constitution in many places indicates that people have the rights to life, liberty, and property. So we're talking about taking property by force for people to come to our county, and we're doing it saying, well, they don't know any better, because if they go someplace else, they'll pay more. And there may be some truth to that. People don't normally look at their hotel bill until they leave, and then they see what the tax was. But I think it ought to be at the beginning. We tax you less. And I think that the Visitors Bureau and others that are promoting our county can find ways to do it without taxation. Thank you.
Benjamin Stopper, District 5. Generally, I would agree with Al. I'm not in favor a majority of the time for raising taxes, especially for effect on people within our county. The TOT tax being put forward right now does make a lot of sense to me. But as we progress on this, I would like us to look at what type of revenue is coming in. And when we're trying to tell that we could put this money towards fire departments, we could put this so much towards whatever else when it comes to services as we move forward, let's put that inside the bond that the people vote on. Let's put a percentage goes towards the fire departments, because so often we vote on things within the state even that's promised to us that we're going to take care of this, but it's not, there's no provision inside what we vote on. So let's put 10% for the fire departments. Let's put, let's go, when you go over the money, this is projected what we're going to retain from this. Let's say we do want this much to go to these type of things. We'll have the people vote on it, and they can see for a fact that that money is going to be presented to what we promised them that would happen. Thank you.
Bonnie Newman from District 1. Forgot. We used to be District 5, but, we've been thrown around. Anyway, I'm an oddball. Me and Al are on opposite spectrums here. I believe in taxes. I want to be taxed. I want to benefit from what taxes generate. What I'm opposed to is unfair taxes. I'm opposed to exemptions. I'm opposed to exclusions. I'm opposed to loopholes and poop holes and any way you can get around not paying what you need to pay to keep everything working. So I'm odd. And if we are charging less TOT than other counties, we need to bring ourselves up to the level that people are expecting to pay. And I don't think we're going to lure anybody to our county because we have a lower transiency tax, transient occupancy tax, or whatever it's called. I think they're going to come to our county because of the quality of life that we can provide, by the attitude that the people have in our community, and by the welcoming that we can offer people by providing them with litter pickup. Why can't we fund litter pickup so all the garbage on the side of our roads isn't apparent to everyone that would want to come and visit? And I'll just say there's a half a dozen things I think we could and should be using this money for to make our community better, so that we can attract the people that some people might think are not coming here because of our taxes. But I'm in support of elevating this ratio, this rate, to what other counties are charging and expecting. Thank you.
Joan Wilson, District 1. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Calaveras County is a wonderful place to come and play. And fortunately, I have had a job for many years now that I am in contact with many people that do come here and play here. They come here because it is an inexpensive place to vacation. They come here because we're close to skiing. They come here because we have caves here and things like that. Do we need this tax? I don't know. We didn't need $13 million annually. That's already been talked about. So if we didn't need that money, why do we need to discourage people to come here by charging more in our taxes? Will it discourage people? I don't know. Things are getting more and more expensive out there. Fewer and fewer people are able to take vacations and go to some place like this. I certainly do hear about it. And I do hear from the people that are coming up here for just the day. Just the day. They're not taking the family vacations that were being taken years ago, especially when I was growing up. A lot of people used to take family vacations, but that's not being done. Gas is going up. Well, that's something to consider too before we start thinking about, the burden that we're going to put on people to come here and play here. Are they going to be able to afford to get here? And once they get here, are they going to be able to afford to stay here and spend a little bit more of that money here? Maybe take care of some of those businesses that are going out of business because they're losing funds. They're losing money because people are moving out of this county. Wow. I drive down 49 and you look at all those empty stores. And you drive down 49 and you look at more empty stores in this town and in the next town. It's rather sad. I hope that raising our taxes on people coming to visit and play here is not going to discourage them. I certainly do want people to come here. I was hoping that there was going to be an industry that would bring more tourism. Where can you go in California and stay in a hotel that is cannabis friendly? Where can you go and visit a farm that's a cannabis farm? This is something new. Thank you.
Other public comments?
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is George Fry. I'm concerned about the lack of transparency. This item shows up. There was no request for proposal. I don't oppose the TOT tax. In fact, I was in Reno for 3 days this past weekend, and the TOT tax was $18. It was 12% at the Atlantis Hotel. I was there for a Rotary District convention. But I think we need to start from the beginning. There seems to be less and less transparency going on with this board. I have to tell you, in my own humble opinion, I've been coming to these meetings for over 20 years, and I cannot believe what a dysfunctional board we have. It just blows my mind. These people may very well be qualified, but they should submit for a request for proposal just like anybody else. They shouldn't be given any special treatment. You know how I am about transparency, but I'm really disappointed in this board, and I'm especially disappointed in 3 of the board members. For all I care, they could go away.
Chair, the supervisors aren't on the agenda here on this.
Are you done?
Well, I got interrupted, which isn't unusual with this gentleman here.
Okay, let's focus on what we're saying.
I was focused on it, but I got interrupted. Okay. This guy does that all the time. Sure. I hope that he doesn't even make it to the November election.
Thank you.
You're too much. You're a real piece of work.
Thank you, George. Thank you.
No, I'm not finished. I got a minute and 6 seconds.
Go ahead, minute and 6 seconds.
Thank you very much.
Focus on this item.
You are too much. I hope you don't even get to run for dog catcher.
George, this item.
I am talking about this item.
This item.
It scares the hell out of me that he's going to vote on it.
George, this item. Thank you. Other public comments?
Jason Campbell, District 5. I'd like to hear some dollar figures on this subject. We've been hearing a lot of percentages back and forth, 5, 10. We're at 6%, I'm understanding.
Sir, I got a question. I didn't hear your opening statement.
Jason Campbell.
No, not who you were, but what you first said. You wanted to hear more.
Dollar figures. I want dollar amounts on what we're talking about here. All we're hearing is percentages, that 5%, 10%. I'm under the understanding we're at 6% right now. Are we going to raise to 10? What is the percentage that we're projecting to raise to? And what are the dollar amounts? What are we collecting now? And what are we going to collect if we raise it to 10? What are we going to collect if we raise it to 18, 15, 20? What are the dollar amounts that we're actually talking about here? You guys are scraping for money. You throw away revenues left and right. We all know that you've thrown away $13 million in tax revenue. I'm paying permits on greenhouses that you guys have a new building director that's come in and completely done away with that. You could have been collecting $1,600 a year from me on building permits for greenhouses that you've thrown away now. None of this makes any sense. You're throwing money away that was guaranteed and scraping for money that hopefully we'll get. Dollar amounts, please.
The dollar amounts are up here in the proposed 10%.
There's a handout on the podium that has the PowerPoint slides.
Lisa, do you want to read?
So,
I think I had a few minutes left too. So, reading that, it clearly says an increase of $401,000. $401,000? That's a joke compared to $13 million. An absolute joke. Hopefully we get it.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Anthony Worster from McCollum Hill. I am aware that our cost of living is going up in Calaveras County. And I'm not either for or against raising the TOT. I just want to remind people that ever since the cost of gas went up, our state legislature decided to raise our gas tax. Food has gone up. Costs more to eat in a restaurant now. I've eaten at the same hotel in McCollum Hill for 3.5, almost 4 years, and all the prices went up twice now since I've been here. So I think there's probably a lot of other people who are in my position too who are a little concerned. So I asked one of the managers at Rayleigh's, I said, gee, why are the vegetables, why is everything so much higher now? This was a few months ago. And he said, well, our suppliers tell us it's because of the gas tax. So, like I say, I'm not for or against this. It's just I think it's really good to think maybe about what Al said. Maybe keeping a lower tax would be very helpful for us getting more visitors. Just a thought. Thank you.
Other comments? Seeing none, I'll close public comments and bring it back to the board. Other board comments, questions? Supervisor Mills.
Yeah, just a thought. Thank you, Chair. Those areas that are highly dependent upon tourist activities, and I'm thinking of South Lake Tahoe and Mariposa County as a gateway to Yosemite, do have higher tax rates. And in the case of Mariposa County, it's much like the City of Angels Camp. They're very dependent upon their TOT to support their general budget year over year. And for instance, when Highway 140 was closed due to a rock slide and the effect that it had on that community. So as long as the tourism is a priority in this county, then having this ability to make use of that funding positively to support tourism and to support the activities. And fire departments are supporting tourism, whether we like it or not. Police departments and the sheriff's department supporting tourism. That's just part of what they do. So this is basically a fee for services for people who come here on a temporary basis to take advantage of our infrastructure and the many things that we provide. We have in essence become almost a Disneyland of the Sierra Nevadas. We are a place that people come to visit, and we need to do everything we can to provide the best experience possible. And the one way we do that is to be sure it's a safe environment and that the roads are safe and that these people can bring their families and enjoy being here. And the TOT is one of those ways that happens.
Any other comments from the board? Seeing none, this was an informational item, so thank you very much for your presentation. We will now go to lunch. We will return from lunch at 1:45.